Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Dart Zone Pro MK3. This blaster came out in 2021 and is part of the Dart Zone Pro series. So with that all the way, let's get started by talking about the box. Starting off with the front of the box, as you can see we have very little information other than a big old warning label and the name of the blaster and its recommended age, which is ages 14 plus. For those who are wondering why it looks so dirty and beaten up, it's actually because just like the Dart Zone Max Tomcat, this blaster was shipped in its own packaging. Unlike the Tomcat though, which had the shipping label pasted on the front, this one had it pasted on the back, which is kind of an improvement, but still a little disappointing they couldn't put it in a box. The only other information we have about this blaster is on the top edge of the box, where we can see that this blaster takes batteries. In fact, it takes 8 AA's to run the blaster. Yes, this blaster is motorized, and it also has a little accessory, the digital sight, which takes 2 AA's. Also, we have this big old crack here from when it was being shipped. I'm guessing this blaster has a tray. From the image on Amazon, it shows you how it looks like inside the box. It does have that standard tray that everything is strapped down to with the little plastic strings. So this shouldn't be that big of a deal, but we'll see. So with that all the way, let's get this thing out of the box and see what's inside. Here we have the Mark III out of the box, and as usual, we'll start off with the paperwork. Starting off with the do not return to store disclaimer that comes with pretty much every online exclusive Dart Zone blaster. Basically, I guess you email them if you want a replacement or a return. I'm not too sure how this works. Next, we have our instructions, a very simple set of instructions here. Tells you how to use the blaster, how to clear jams, and even a content list, because there's no content list on the box anywhere. Everything you need to know about the blaster is in these instructions. Next, we have our safety glasses. These are very simple safety glasses, kind of cool. Very nice inclusion. Next, we have our darts. This blaster comes with 15 half-length pro darts. These are the same darts that came with the Mark 2.1, but we also have full-length pro darts. Yes, this blaster is capable of using both half and full-length darts, which will make for a very interesting video. On the subject of darts, let's move on to magazines. This blaster comes with one 15-round half-length magazine, which kind of has this curve to it. Kind of cool. And for the full-length darts, we have a 15-round full-length magazine. Also has a slight curve to it. Now you're probably wondering, how are we going to load the magazines into the blaster? The full-length magazine loads in pretty easily, but the half-length magazine doesn't. Well, that's why we have this, the Pro Mag adapter. Basically, you load the magazine adapter into the blaster like so. It doesn't go anywhere because it's locked in. Take your half-length magazine and put it in. And use it has its own mag release to release the magazine. And to remove it, you just use the blaster's own mag release to take the adapter out. Next, we have our digital sight. It's kind of a cool looking sight here. It has a little on and off switch here because this sight takes batteries and has a little light that appears on this piece of plastic here. When we load the blaster up with batteries, we'll load this up too and show you that later. All right, onto the blaster itself. But before we do that, we need to install the batteries. The battery cover is on the other side of the blaster, and it's just a simple screw right here. And as we can see, it requires quite a few batteries. 8 AA's. We have here some Kirkland Signature AA's. All right, we put the cover back on. And now the blaster weighs a little bit more. It does appear to rev without a magazine, While we're loading batteries, might as well load the sight with batteries. It requires 2 AAAs, also using Kirkland signature. Turn it on. We have our little red dot, which is kind of really cool. Anyway, onto the blaster itself. Let's actually install our little sight first. Just put it on like so. The rail is a little tight, which does ensure that this sight is going nowhere, which is really nice. Also, speaking of sights and rails, I have here the Dart Zone Max dictator sights, and see if they're compatible, which they do appear to be. So you can have iron sights as well if you wanted to. Means pretty much every Dart Zone or Adventure Force tactical strike sights should work, so that's kind of cool. Speaking of other features on the blaster, we have the stock. This stock is adjustable and removable. Has that standard buffer tube here, and I have here an Adventure Force Tactical Strike Aeon Pro stock, which also fits. So you can use pretty much any of the Dart Zone Max or Adventure Force Tactical Strike stocks, just like the sights. Because we're on the subject of compatibility, let's check magazine compatibility. Starting off with a standard Nerf 6-round magazine. Should fit in the blaster pretty well. How about a Nerf 18-rounder? The little lump there prevents it from fitting into some blasters. No problem. Next we have the Adventure Force Pro 12-round. Not surprised at all. It is a Dart Zone product after all. Also the Dart Zone 12-round magazine. Fits like a glove. 25-round drum. Okay. A little loose, but you know, fits pretty well. Adventure Force Tactical Strike magazine adapter, which I don't think should be a problem. They're pretty much exactly the same, if not exactly the same. If you want orange. What about the 15-round Adventure Force Tactical Strike magazine with the magazine adapter it comes with? Fits perfectly fine. But then again, these two are exactly the same. All right, that's enough talking about accessories. Let's talk about the blaster itself. The controls on this blaster are very simple, pretty much standard on all flywheel blasters. Yes, this blaster is a motorized flywheel blaster. You have your rev trigger, which you hold down to power up the wheels, and your trigger to fire the blaster. I guess have your mag release, which we showed a little bit when we were showing off the magazines. Also, this grip right here is rubber. What makes this blaster very interesting is the other control on the left side of the blaster. This little switch here. This little switch changed the blaster from semi-auto to full auto. So it has a fire selector on it, which is kind of cool. And for sake of review, I'm going to take the batteries out because the motors are really loud. So I thought this switch was electronic. I thought it told the motor to extend the pusher out once when it's on semi and then keep pushing when it's on full, but I'm wrong about that. In reality, it's mechanical. I guess what happens is the switch engages something in the trigger that allows for the extender to be pushed out with semi, and when it's on full, it makes the pusher into a button. So I thought that was quite interesting, that this isn't just some electronic switch, it's a mechanical switch. Anyway, that's enough talking about the blaster. Let's take this thing out on the range and see how it fares. All right, here we are at the range. As you can see, we have our targets set up. And we're gonna be starting off with the Dart Zone Pro darts the blaster came with. I'm only going to be using 12 because I only have 12 round magazines for the other darts, so we're only going to be using 12 with the Pro Darts. And before I continue with the Pro Darts, I'm just going to mention I am planning on buying more full length Pro Darts and half length Pro Darts, but they won't be in any of the reviews except for online exclusive blasters like the Mark III here, because I don't think it's practical to test them with something you can buy off the shelf. So that's just something to keep in mind. We're gonna start off semi-auto, which by the way, that's your sight picture. There isn't any sights on the blaster, it's just the little red dot here. Okay, so you can hear anything. All right, I'm gonna switch to full auto for the last shot. Well, it is fairly accurate. It's one of those blasters that of course you have to zero in, but once you get it zeroed in, you can hit targets pretty well. All right, let's set up the targets again and move on to the next dart. All right, on to Nerf. Starting with semi-auto. And the rest will be full auto. Yeah, they're flying all over the place. Nerf is not that accurate. Of course, it's accuracy by quantity in this case, so which is why I was able to hit all those targets. Most of those were from full auto. But yeah, let's move on to the next dart. All right, on to Adventure Force. All right, I'm gonna go full auto. Those were better. They were better. I was actually able to hit quite a few targets with semi-auto. I don't think I hit any with when going full auto though. All right, let's move on to the next dart. And last for the full length darts, Dart Zone. I'm gonna mention something right now. This blaster has a knack for on semi-auto somehow firing 2 darts, despite being 100% mechanical. It's just really weird. Anyway, moving on to full auto. All right, the blaster is fairly accurate with both semi and full auto with Dart Zone. Honestly, I think I think Dart Zone did the best out of all the darts. I mean, when it comes to easy accessibility, because the I do feel like the Pro Darts were a little bit unimpressive. Or not as impressive. Anyway, let's move on to the half lengths. All right, on to Pro half lengths. We're gonna go full auto. I don't know, is it just me or those darts look like they were going slower than all the other darts? They're supposed to be they're like half the weight, or approximately half the weight of a standard dart, but they feel like they were going slower. I don't know. Anyway, let's move on to the next dart. On to Adventure Force. We had a jam. Strange. got 2 more shots for full auto. It's fine. Yeah, those are going all over the place, and I got a jam, which I'm a little surprised at. Nothing too serious, but still kind of weird that I got a jam. Anyway, on to the last dart. On to Dart Zone. And I do want to make a quick mention. These darts kind of have the same tip. So you can see the pattern is the same. We're on full auto. Now switch to sound. Now switch to full. Those are pretty good. I will say I'm a little disappointed in the Pro darts. I think they're probably better in spring-powered blasters, not flywheel ones. After all, that is kind of what these little ridges are. They're for better air seal. But on a blaster like this, there is no air seal. Let's move on to the range test. All right, here we are at the range test. As usual, for context, the chicken marks 25 feet. The swan marks 35 feet. The frog marks 45 feet. And the far back wall marks 50. We're going to be starting off with our Pro darts, our Dart Zone Pro darts. I'm going to do, or at least try to do 6 rounds in semi-auto and then do the rest full auto. Hit the 50-foot mark. All right, switching to full auto. Really wanting to do that weird 2-round burst thing. Next, we have Nerf Elite. Oh, that was 2 full auto. And the last few shots are gonna go full auto. On to Adventure Force. Switching to full. On to Dart Zone. Switching to full. Alright, we're done with full lengths. On to half lengths, starting off with the Dart Zone Pro darts. You know, so those didn't seem like they went that far. On to Adventure Force. These are the kind of jams I'm talking about. I think the finger, the pusher, pulls the next dart back for some reason. This thing just doesn't like Adventure Force for some reason. Switching to full auto. Lastly, Dart Zone. Switching to full. All right, let's go check out those ranges. All right, the results pretty much seem like what I was expecting. Everything really hitting the 50-foot mark. As you can see, this whole area is filled with darts. And with full auto, some of the darts were landing from the 45 foot mark. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put up the ranges for semi-auto on screen now. For all, was it 5 of these darts? 7? There's 7 different types of darts here. Then I'm gonna put up the full auto ranges, which I'm pretty sure everything landed right around here. During editing, I'll look over the footage a little bit better. All right, on to the speed test. All right, here we are at the speed test. Starting off with the semi-auto, I'm going to be firing a total of 6 darts each in semi-auto. Starting off with the Dart Zone Pro darts. 158, 155, 150, 159, 162, and 158. All right, so that was an average of 157. And our highest was 162 and our lowest was 150. So pretty good speeds on this for the Pro darts. Next dart we have is Nerf. 117, 148, 130, 132, 130. Oh, it did. I think it did the double shot because it only registered 5 shots. Let me do one more. At 132. So we had an average of 131.5. So 131 with a maximum of 148 and 117 minimum. Next we have Adventure Force. 153. 134, 126, 128, 146, 128. All right, here are the results. 135 average with a minimum of 126 and a maximum of 153. This is pretty slow. Last of the full length darts, we're going to be doing Dart Zone. 116, 122, 145, 144, 146, 144. Okay, another average of 135, a minimum of 116, and a maximum of 146. All right, on to half-length darts, starting with the Dart Zone Pro darts. 145, 147, 151, 150, 155, and 146. All right, so we have an average of 149 with a minimum of 145 and a maximum of 155. Results, I'm surprised. I thought they would go a little faster than the full lengths. Next, we have Adventure Force. 145. It jammed. 142, 147, 145, 141, and 142. Here are the results. We have an average of 143, minimum of 144, and a maximum of 147. Last start, Dart Zone. 154, 150, 150, 145, 150, 148. All right, here are the results. An average of 149, that's not bad. Our minimum was 145 and our maximum was 154. these aren't bad. All right, time for part 2, full auto. Starting off with Dart Zone Pro. So this test will show us what kind of speed loss we're getting from the darts going to the flywheels without this flywheels spinning up all the way, as well as how fast the blaster shoots at full auto. Something I forgot to mention, I will be firing 15 shots each because during my testing of the chronograph with the phone, those had the best results. Now here are our results. We have an average of 127 and shots per second 3.75. That's pretty good. All right, here we have Nerf. Here are the results. We have an average of 118 with a minimum of 104 and a maximum of 138 and 3.75 shots per second. There's a significant drop in speed. On to Adventure Force. What the heck happened there? That was fast. What the heck was up with that? Here are our results. We have an average speed of 109.71, a minimum of 98 and a maximum of 144. Our shots per second was 7.5. That's like double what the other two are doing. I don't know what's up with this blaster. Sometimes it shoots like 2 darts like at once per cycle. It's really weird. Last of the full lengths, Dart Zone. And yes, I am aware that I didn't read the minimum or maximum of Dart Zone Pro. Completely forgot. All right, here we have the results. We have an average of 116.27, minimum of 103 and a maximum of 136. And our shots per second are 3.75. Which is pretty much every dart except for Adventure Force for some reason. It kept shooting multiple shots. All right, on to the half lengths. All right, starting off with our Dart Zone Pro darts. All right, here are the results. We have an average of 141.8 with a minimum of 136 and a maximum of 145, which is not bad. Shots per second, 1. I guess because there are half lengths, the blaster's pusher, how the blaster works, it's definitely slower rate of fire. All right, our next dart is Adventure Force. All right, this, believe it or not, is take 3 of Adventure Force half lengths. First take, the thing kept jamming and the thing errored. Second take, blaster wouldn't turn on. We'll talk about that in the final thoughts section, but here we go. Blaster just keeps jamming. You just don't like Adventure Force, do you? All right, well, I apologize, but I'm not continuing with Adventure Force. From the data we did get, we have an average of 137, a minimum of 132, and a maximum of 142, with a shot per second of 0.17 shots a second. The last dart for the speed test. Don't fail me. Dart Zone, don't fail me now. And those are the kind of results I want to see. All right, here we have our results. We have an average of 133.33, minimum of 127, maximum of 148, and shots per second 3.75. With that all the way, let's move on to my final thoughts. So what are my final thoughts on the Dart Zone Pro Mark III? before we do that, as usual, we need to go over where I bought it and how much I spent. So this is normally the part of the video where I talk about where I bought the blaster and how much I spent. And while looking up information on the blaster while editing this video, I realized that the price I give in the original footage for its original retail price is wrong. It has changed since I recorded this video back in November, so I'm going to make the correction here. So I purchased this blaster on Amazon for $97.95 USD. This is a sale price. At the time, this was the sale price that I bought it at, and it currently retails for $99.98 USD. So when I originally recorded the review, the blaster retailed for $129.99 USD, so it was $130. So the sale was actually more significant than it would be if compared to today's price. Yeah, a lot has changed since I recorded this thing. Anyway, back to the video. So this part of the video has been recorded several weeks later. I think I started recording this video in November, and it is currently the end of December, and by the time the video is released, it should be the beginning of January of 2023, because we had an issue with this blaster. So when I was recording it originally in November, recording the video review in November, I noticed the rev trigger wasn't always revving, and eventually, after a couple days, it just stopped working entirely. I decided to open the blaster up, poke around in it, and me and my dad found that the rev trigger switch, the switch for the rev trigger, was broken. And after doing some research online, it turns out this is a somewhat common problem with the Mark III, where the rev trigger switch fails. So after that, my mom got in contact with Dart Zone through this email here, but it's on this yellow piece of paper that says "Do not return to store." And she contacted them a couple days after. A day later, she got a response asking them for if they wanted to send out this switch here, and she said, "Yeah, they'll send out the switch." And then we got the switch a couple days later on the 25th of November. So we have the switch here that we're going to be replacing the original switch with this new one. So without further ado, let's get started. All right, please pardon the noise. They have the fan on in here because, you know, solder has off-gassing. But as you can see, we have desoldered the switch, and we are going to solder the new switch on. Yeah, so let's get started with that. All right, here we have the new switch soldered on the wires, and we have our battery pack loaded up with batteries. We can moment of truth. There we go. So now all we have to do is reassemble it, and hopefully this switch lasts longer than the original. So after that short segment of the blaster being repaired, I think it's time to talk about my final thoughts. So I'm going to be going over this blaster in points, which, by the way, this blaster was the first blaster to introduce the point system that I kind of removed. We'll just go over them real quick. Yeah, where to start? Aesthetics, I guess. Aesthetically, I don't like this blaster. Aesthetically, to me, it looks like a ugly fish. I don't know why. I don't want to think fish with this blaster, but it's very kind of ugly looking to me. I don't get this whole like foregrip end thing in front of the magazine well. I don't know. I do see potential problems with magazine compatibility, though I haven't had any magazines that don't work in this blaster, opposed from like the catch not working with them. I don't know, but potentially some magazines might have some protrusions on them that make them so they don't work in this blaster. Next point I guess we could talk about is compatibility with other items, other accessories and stuff. The top rail here is very compatible with the other Dart Zone, this kind of rail accessory. It is compatible with those. So this bottom rail doesn't seem to work with any of the accessories I own, including this sight up here, which you can see, doesn't really work. I'm not even sure if this is supposed to be a rail. The stock, believe it or not, is compatible with other accessories, like the Adventure Force Tactical Strike Nexus Pro will work. From what I have read online, don't quote me on this, this is a standard AR-15 buffer tube stock attachment point. For those who don't know, the AR-15 is a pattern of firearm, and they have this, of course they have a buffer tube because recoil springs and everything. But from what I read online, this is compatible with those stocks. So if you have one from an actual firearm or airsoft, I think this is compatible with it. Don't quote me on that though. That's only from my research. I don't own any of those stocks. Magazines. Yeah, let's talk about magazines. It does work with pretty much every magazine, and the magazine adapter works with every half-length magazine I own, but all the half-length magazines I own are Dart Zone made. But there is an issue. It has to do with this kind of wiggle with the magazines. It doesn't affect the blaster performance in any way. It's just a little annoying. It's just kind of flopping around. It also has the same issue with the half-length adapter as well. Other magazines from my testing off camera, and I think I did show them. It's been a long time. I haven't reviewed the footage in a while. It is compatible with all other magazines, including the 25 round drum, which I have used before. So it is compatible with other magazines, except for I think a couple where the magazine catch wasn't compatible. I don't know. So in this part of the video, I was talking about how the blaster's dart compatibility is like pretty much perfect. I was saying things like it wasn't jamming, never jammed on any of the tests or anything like that. But that's of course because I didn't review the footage, didn't look over the footage, and of course it was months ago that I recorded all the footage, and then this was, I think, this was this week when I'm editing the video, this couple days ago, and I realized, oh wait, I'm dumb. The blaster did jam several times with the Adventure Force Tactical Strike half-length darts, the gray and orange ones. As we see in the speed test, they just kept jamming to the point where I gave up. And by the way, it still does that. So this blaster might just be mine. My blaster just doesn't like those kind of darts. Those Adventure Force Tactical Strike darts doesn't like those. All the other darts I have seem to work fine in it. Doesn't seem to jam. I don't think it's jammed with a full-length dart yet. Even though I've used it quite extensively, but it hasn't jammed with a full-length dart, so there is that. So another thing to mention is the fact that it rapid fires Adventure Force. I don't know, it just shoots 2 Adventure Force darts every cycle on full auto, and actually sometimes on semi-auto. Believe it or not, on semi-auto, it will fire 2 darts at once. It's a little weird. I'm still confused. I'm still just baffled how that's possible, but it does do that at times. It's a little confusing, but I don't know. It will do the 2 darts at once with other darts. It has done it with Dart Zone and Nerf before, but Adventure Force, it seems to do it all the time. In regards to the half-length darts having a lower rate of fire than the full-length darts, that's just because of how the blaster is designed. How its pusher mechanism is designed. It has to go approximately double the distance to push the dart into the flywheels, which brings down the rate of fire significantly, or at least significantly enough to be 1 dart a second. I guess the next point we can make is ergonomics. This blaster is quite comfortable to hold and quite comfortable to shoot. It's surprisingly front heavy, even though the batteries are back here. I guess the motor's way more than the batteries. But when you do hold it from the foregrip here, it does balance pretty well. Rev trigger's nice. Semi-auto trigger's nice. And the full auto trigger also nice. Magazine release is in a pretty good spot. Take magazines out pretty well. The stock is comfortable. I do like the stock. It's actually quite solid. Actually, it does move around a little bit, but when you press it against your body, it doesn't move around at all. Pretty nice. Also has this removable. I guess it's supposed. I I don't know if it's supposed to be removable, but it has this rubber butt pad on it. I think the only complaint I have with its ergonomics is the selector lever, because if you're right-handed, you have to move your grip a lot just to flick it to semi-auto, and even when flipping it to full, you have to kind of move your grip around. If you're firing it left-handed, you kind of have to move your hand a little bit, but not as much. So there's that. I mean, they probably put it on the left side because to make it easier for right-handed people, but I think it actually makes it worse. So this blaster might work better for left-handed people who are being fired from left hand. So moving on, next point, probably the last point. Oh, actually, no, we have to talk about value too. Reliability. So this next section, I was making claims that I've never had a jam with this blaster, but we all know that's definitely a lie. So I'm just gonna re-record it as a voiceover. So when it comes to reliability, when using the blaster, when firing darts out of it, it's quite reliable with full-length darts, even though we have issues with double firing and stuff. It doesn't jam, or I haven't had a jam with a full-length dart yet. Maybe I will in the future. But we do have issues with half-length darts jamming. I even think, well, I've had jams with Dart Zone before, on off-camera tests and stuff, as well as the Dart Zone Pro darts, the little green bamboo darts that come with the blaster. I've had issues with those as well. But overall, it's a pretty reliable blaster. Has issues with the rev trigger, but like I said, that could only be on mine and the other people online who've had issues with their rev triggers. There are videos on how to fix this, also videos on how to replace it with a better switch, but we're reviewing this blaster as is. This is definitely an issue. Be aware when you buy this blaster, you might have a bad rev trigger or a bad sight. And after opening this thing up, I realized that the full auto switch is similar or maybe even the same as the rev trigger switch, which could be a problem. But at least if that fails, you still have the semi-auto. But technically, it is an issue because if Dart Zone is going to sell this blaster as a product, everything should work fine for years, not after a week. So there is that to keep in mind. Value-wise, this blaster retails for a pretty penny, $130. At least, I think that's what it costs. Well, I mean, the blaster currently retails on Amazon now for $99.98, which is quite interesting because it originally cost, I think when I bought it, it cost $130 or something like that. Yeah, I don't know, but for $100, where would I put this blaster? From the blaster you're getting out of it, performance-wise, the fact that it uses half and full-length darts, select fire mechanism, comes with red dot sight. I will say this blaster I think is worth the $100. Of course, it has its issues that can be dealt with sort of pretty easily, especially if you know how to solder. Shouldn't be a problem, and it has gone down in price since it came out. Like I said, I think it came out when I bought it was like $130. But I do think that it is worth, at least now, even more worth the $100 for this blaster. So would I recommend the Mark III? Yes, I would recommend the Mark III. If you have the $100 to spend on it, of course. If you don't, I'd say wait for it to go on sale. I mean, these things go on sale about maybe once or twice a year, so it shouldn't be too hard. It's also on Amazon, so there could be some, maybe some deals you can find on there. I'm not sure. Of course, this blaster has its issues with the rev trigger, potential issues with magazine incompatibility, and the red dot. And just because the switches are similar, you might also have issues with the full auto mechanism not working. The issues of shooting two darts out at once. They're both half and full length. There's that to mention. I'm still going to keep mentioning those. But overall, it's a very solid blaster. Well built, I will say, other than the rev trigger's not working, this is a pretty solid blaster. So there is that. Oh yeah, something else to mention in a negative. The packaging. I didn't like the packaging for this blaster. It was just a cardboard box that this thing was strapped down into. That is another one of those rants I have. Blaster packaging for expensive blasters should at least be nice, not like the Tomcat. Anyway, this will be the end of the review. Finally, took long enough to get to this point. Hope you all found this review helpful. Comment your thoughts about this blaster down below. Comment what else you want to see on the channel. Be sure to check out my review on the Dart Zone Pro Mark 2.1, another blaster in the Dart Zone Pro line, of course being the sequel to the Mark II. Also check out my other reviews. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time.